session.
Kate Hinton, mom and estate planning attorney. Welcome to Camp Chaos.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We have so many questions.
We have so many questions.
We had to write them down.
Wait, but also I feel like people are going to be like, estate planning attorney? Like, wow, these girls have really taken a turn.
But can you just go back to talking about potty training?
But it is a very important thing that is not talked about enough, especially with moms, new moms, families, all of those things. So we're going to have you take us through the basics of all of it. And I think we should start just to get to know you a little bit is like, you know, as a mom and an attorney, what made you want to get into estate planning specifically?
Okay, so I started estate planning well before I was a mom. So this July, I will have been an attorney for a decade. So I've been doing it for a lot longer than a mom. I only have a 1 and a 2-year-old. And I really became interested in it in law school. It's not necessarily what I set out to do, but the law school course on wills and trusts was intriguing to me, and planning for the future and people's assets and where it goes. It's not always a natural distribution. And so it was really just an interest that was sparked in me. Mm-hmm. That has been fostered a lot after I had kids because it's so important for families to plan for the future. Planning for your future is not only for your kids, it also is for yourself, because there's so many aspects of an estate plan that really help the parents as well.
Yeah. I feel like estate planning is very scary, like because
it's very morbid.
It's very morbid. Yeah. You think about you do this when you're preparing for death. So nobody, you know, our age wants to go do that, or frankly thinks you need to do that because you're like, oh no, I'm young, but it's something that you do need to do. You need to plan for the future and all these things. So just to start with the basics, like what is estate planning and what is like maybe the first step that you do?
Okay. I can see why it's intimidating. Like so many people are intimidated. It's a back burner issue. No one wants to talk about it because what you're planning for is unpleasant things, of course. Estate planning, like the most simple way to really put it is that it's a comprehensive group of documents that plan for scenarios in your future. So you're planning, do you want me to go through what the documents are?
Yeah.
Okay. So the thing that people always talk about is a trust, but that's really one of the documents that you're going to have. And so people may not plan when they're young, but you might as well. Because even if someone thinks, oh, I'm young, I'll do that when I'm 60, there's no need to wait because you don't know what the future holds. And it's also a document that lives with you. It's a living document. You can always change it if you need to or want to, but it really helps you in the beginning to just plan for future scenarios. So what a trust is there's so many benefits. The first of which is you get to choose who receives your assets. And that might differ from what a natural distribution would be. So if you don't have a trust, you go through probate. People always say, okay, what's probate? Well, it's a court process where the courts are going to find out who are your heirs, who are your creditors, who is going to receive your assets. But you don't need to leave it up to the courts. Like you can decide.
And that takes so much time, right?
It takes a lot of time.
And you hire attorneys?
Mm-hmm. You hire attorneys, and it's expensive. That's a big consideration
too. So it's unnecessary.
It's unnecessary, and it's really leaving a lot of work for your kids. So if you don't have a trust, your estate's going through probate, and as soon as you die, then your kids are filing a petition with the court. It's essentially a lawsuit. So you're really leaving them with this like daunting mess that they have to go through. And it's expensive. The fees are set by statute, and it's percentages of estates. So it can get very expensive versus an estate plan is so cheap in comparison. It's a lot less than what someone's going to pay going to probate.
Just a matter of doing the hard work ahead of time.
It is. And it's actually not that hard. Like it might seem intimidating. Like, okay, I need to go meet with an attorney, find someone, give them, all of my instructions, but it's not that bad. Like it's, at least how I handle it, it's a very straight, simple questionnaire, really. And you go from there. And I try to make it as not overwhelming and palpable as possible so that it's just, pleasant, even though you're planning for unpleasant scenarios.
Yeah. Well, I think that, the harsh reality is that like no one's getting out of here alive, where death is the inevitable for all of us. And I think that after becoming a mother, it's like your biggest worry is like leaving your children, but it's like, what is the mess you're going to leave with them?
Yeah,
are you going to leave them? We're like, okay, here's my plot. Here are my funeral proceedings. Like make this quick. You don't have to stress about when I'm gone. And then the next part is, okay, and the assets, and here's who gets what.
Mhm.
You're not going to have to hire an attorney because the stress of that is just so, I mean, and already such a horrific and sad time. You also have to deal with that. And then, like you're saying, like the goal is you are dying when you're in your 90s, but the reality is like there's nothing guaranteed. So this could happen at any time. So if you have minors, it's probably a totally different, like if you have young children, how does that work? Is that the same? Like who would be put in, like who would the court say, okay, no, this goes to this person? Like how does that work of your next of kin?
Like if
or
you don't have an estate plan established and you're in probate, what are the courts like go-to proceedings?
Okay. So if you have your estate plan, you nominate your guardian in there. It's easy. That's what you're doing. But if you don't, someone petitions for guardianship. And that can be a very scary thing. Like you don't choose. And we do
the
so
court
much.
chooses then.
Yes. So someone will petition, someone will ask to be appointed the guardian, and the court chooses. And then that can be a disaster too, because there's not always one person. Someone might have multiple siblings, or maybe a grandparent wants it, or maybe the cousin says, no, I saw the baby all the time, I want to raise them. And the judge will consider and weigh what different people say. They will appoint an individual to look into the circumstances, and it's like a turbulent time for the child. So they'll be temporarily placed with somebody, but that could be temporary. It could be permanent, but it could be temporary. And that's hard for the child. Mm-hmm. They don't have, you're losing a parent already. And then in addition to that, they don't have stability of where they're going. They might have to move to a different state, whatever the case may be, you no longer have the choice in it.
Yeah, that makes it really hard in an already difficult situation. And I feel like sometimes, or most oftentimes, like after losing someone, sometimes so many feelings are coming up and you're in this grief process that's not really something that you want to deal with. I know you mentioned the trust is one portion of the estate, but what are all the documents that like people need in place for the estate planning?
Okay, so I'll list them and then I'll describe them.
Okay.
So the trust, that's kind of your, I guess, like bread and butter, kind of the main thing that people talk about, think about, and that's what's holding assets. Then you have a pour over will, an advance healthcare directive, a durable power of attorney, and a certificate of trust. So even when you have a will, it's always recommended, it's always recommended to still have a will. The reason for that, there's several reasons, but the main one is that some people do not title their assets in trust. So you establish a trust, but you need to, what's called fund it. You need to put assets into the trust. It needs to own your assets in order to operate.
Well, and that could be evolving. Like, I mean, my husband and I, we buy and sell assets every year. So like the assets we have right now are definitely not going to be the ones we have in 5 years, 10 years, hopefully 50 years, but they change.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect example. They change and people aren't always thinking about their trust. So they change. And if someone like you guys, if you're revolving assets, they're not always titled perfectly. Or maybe you think, I'm only going to own this for a year. I don't need to put it
or
in
if
my
it's
trust.
in an LLC, if it's not in our name, like how does that work?
Okay, that's a great question. And so my recommendation on that always is to have your trust be the member of the LLC.
Got it.
So you still have control over the property and the LLC becomes an asset of the trust.
Got it.
But if people don't do that, if they don't properly title assets, and it's common because they don't know, or they're not thinking about it, or they're thinking, I'm not going to have this asset in 10 years anyways. Why does it matter? The will operate to pour over those assets into the trust so it can be distributed by the terms of the trust, even if the trust didn't actually own it.
So when you talk about a trust, because I know there's revocable and irrevocable trusts, like I know you said it's like a living trust and it can be changed anytime, but if it's an irrevocable trust, it cannot be, correct?
That's correct. But the most common, like recommended, is a revocable.
Okay. So in what cases would you do an irrevocable trust?
For tax planning purposes, really.
Okay.
Interesting.
To avoid taxes? Like with like, okay,
Yes.
I don't want to get like I'm avoiding taxes on this podcast at this moment. But like, I forget what proposition it was. You'll remember with the taxes with the home and when your taxes get reassessed on the new value.
Okay.
When it gets
Prop 19.
Prop 19, is it?
Mm-hmm. The most recent, like big sweeping change that
The
people
big
have taken
change.
some issue with is Prop 19.
Yeah. And then your taxes get reassessed for like, so let's say like you bought a house for, $1 million 30 years ago in Newport Beach. And now when you go to pass, that house is worth $10 million. Your property taxes go from a very small percent that you're paying on the $1 million to now your kids are paying on a $10 million property. So is that like what it would avoid or no?
Well, the situation is going to be so dependent on specifics. So in that particular situation, someone can avoid it if they have it be their primary residence for a minimum of 2 years. So
After
just a little
inheriting
tidbit.
it.
Yes.
So if it's your primary resident for 2 years, you can keep your taxes to what it was,
Yes.
original
So
purchase
child
price.
moves in, but has to be primary residence. Otherwise, it's getting reassessed. But there's also federal tax exemptions. Now we're really getting into
I know.
tax.
Like, wow.
No, because
And-
it's really big girl conversations, but it's like this is the reality. And for a lot of the people that have grown up in this area, or like no matter where you've grown up, if you're in California, like these things are your realities of what you're going to face one day.
So there's also federal tax exemption. So like in your example, there's not going to be like an additional tax or penalty on the estate because of the $10 million example. But yes, an irrevocable trust could be used for certain situations like that.
Oh my gosh, it's like getting into the weeds of it, like it gets
It
really
is,
specific,
yeah.
but that's why it's so helpful to sit down with someone like you and to like cover
Well,
the
because like
basics.
everybody, I'm going to ask all the questions that my husband, I'm surprised Gus isn't here trying
Gus
to like.
would
Gus
literally
love to
pull
talk
up a
to you.
seat right
He
now.
probably will at some point. He's in Chicago. So I mean like in the future, it's not right at this moment. But like what my circumstances are so different than what her circumstances are. And I'm
Right.
sure you get that all the time. But like I have stepchildren. She doesn't. Like we have LLCs, we have businesses, other places. Like we've got ours is so messy. Like it's so messy in like a good way, but like there's just so many moving parts. But I feel like for the most part, if you're a new family, if you like have kids and you own a home, you have a couple bank accounts, here's my retirement account, here's my, here's my 401k, here's my Ameritrade, here are the cars, like it should be pretty simple, right?
Yes, and
mine
yes,
is not,
it is
but
very
it
simple.
should be.
But even in your circumstance, like when people have a healthy amount of assets, it really does help to simplify things. You make a list of what you have, you can go through each thing. But for the, I guess, for the average, 2 kids, 1 house, 2 cars family, it's very easy. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. And I also think that there's a common misconception that people don't need an estate plan if they don't have X
A crazy amount of
assets in assets. But like present day, if you have over $184,000 in assets, or you will in your lifetime, you're going through probate. So it's a very low threshold.
Wow.
So and it's avoidable. And so the other thing that comes up is sometimes people feel like maybe they don't want to divulge everything, but another interesting aspect of estate planning is you provide to your attorney what you have, but you don't need to provide how much. So you don't have to say, this is my Chase bank account, I have $200,000 in it. You don't do that. You just say, this is my Chase bank account. It ends in 123, just to designate what your assets are.
Yeah, because it can be very intimidating. You're like going to sit down and meet with your attorney for the first time. You're like, okay, so here's everything that I own and here's my, it's a lot. But I think I remember when my husband and I went and sat down and did ours, like the biggest portion for new parents is the guardianship nomination, obviously, and like what you're going to do with your kids and what happens with your kids and making all of those big decisions. So let's start from the beginning of what is guardianship nomination.
Okay. So first, a guardianship is if the parents are unable or unwilling to take care of your minor child and you need someone else to take care of them. So a guardianship nomination is when you designate an individual in your estate plan to take care of your minor children if you're unable or unwilling. I always recommend you have like the primary, first guardian, and then you can have subsequent if that named individual is unable or unwilling. Then included in that, of course, is the consideration of, okay, well, how are they going to take care of my children? Well, you can designate and just kind of specify in your estate plan how you want it to go. So you can put your request for schooling. Maybe you have a certain sport you want them involved in, whatever it may be, you can include specific instructions, and then that individual may or may not be your trustee. So they can also have access to your money if you want, or you have that be a different individual. And that's really just a preference of if you want the guardian to also have control of the money,
or if you want it
kind of
distributed
separated
monthly or however that works.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing with minor children is people always think, okay, do I want them to receive everything when they're 18? And you don't have to. You can do what's called staggered provisions. You can do 18, 20, 25, whatever you choose, whatever's in your comfort level. And it's complete preference, really.
You all know how much I prioritize my kids' health, and for me, that starts with the basics, like the water we drink every single day. I want Zane and Zoe to have the absolute best, and let's be honest, I don't trust the tap water. I used to think a simple pitcher filter was enough, but after learning about all the contaminants still lurking in most tap water, things like PFAs, those forever chemicals, chlorine, and even microplastics, I knew I had to do better. We shouldn't have to second guess the quality of water our families are drinking. That's why I love AquaTrue. Their purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification system that removes 15 times more contaminants than your average pitcher filter, without any complicated installation or plumbing. Okay, and here's what really sold me. PFAs, or those forever chemicals, are found in almost 45% of U.S. tap water. Long-term exposure can lead to some pretty scary health issues, but AquaTrue is certified to remove them. Their filters last from 6 months to 2 years. No more swapping out filters every couple of months. And one set of filters replaces 4,500 plastic water bottles, which saves money and helps the earth. The taste is incredible. Even my coffee and tea taste so much better. So honestly, it's been a game changer in our home, and I love knowing that every glass of water we drink is pure, clean, and safe. And setting it up, so easy, I had it working in minutes. If you're ready to upgrade your water, AquaTrue is offering our listeners 20% off any purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and enter promo code CAMP at checkout. That's 20% off your own AquaTrue water purifier when you use our code CAMP at checkout. Drink better, feel better, and give your family the cleanest water possible. You'll never look at tap water the same way again.
I think one of the harder parts that I remember is like what you're saying is you go through, okay, who do I want to watch my kids if something happens, or like, be the main new parent for my kids. But then who do I want to handle the finances for my kids? And those can be two different people. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting down with the attorney. I'm like, well, so what is your opinion? And I'm not asking for like your opinion on who I should nominate, but like, how should I think about this? So when you're sitting down with a family, like how are you prepping them to make these decisions? Because they're like, big, huge decisions that even when you go in to sit there, you're like, you're going in to make these decisions, but then you have to sit there and write it down, and it feels a little different.
I could see that. I try to make it like comfortable and not intimidating, but I can see how no matter who it is you're meeting with, that it's just an intimidating subject matter. And my overall recommendation is that you just have to know who you trust. A lot comes down to trust. If you trust this person to take care of your kids and also properly use your finances, it can be the same individual. A lot of people have questions of, well, what if they're using my money for their own kids? And so if people have those kinds of thoughts of, okay, if you're wanting your child to stay in their same private school, are they then sending their kids to the private school on my dollar? Well, they're not supposed to. And there are safeguards against that. But that's just kind of the main thing to consider is if you're naming the same individual or not, is trust.
What are you saying to the couples who are like, if we're married and she's like, well, I want my sister, and I'm like, well, I want my brother.
If you and I are married?
Yeah. Like if the couple, like if the husband and the wife don't agree, and it's they're in the room with you of like, okay, well, I want this person and I want this person.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens all the time.
I know.
So yes, it happens all the time.
That's why you married an only child.
No, I joke that I'm a part-time therapist, but I swear
you have
it's true.
To be.
Like I really am like part therapist, because people come in and they disagree, like naturally, and like that does come up, and they really, I can give my like insight or what I think practically how things would play out. I think some good considerations are, where do the individuals live? Do they have children of a similar age? And those are kind of my like two main things, because you're considering not only who's watching your child, but are they now moving to a different school district? Your sister's kids, are they 17 and they're going to be out of the house? They don't want to start over with new kids. So there's a lot that goes into it that I kind of recommend to people to consider and to play into their choice.
Are you, I am like, it's bringing me all back to when we had this meeting. That's why I'm like thinking of all these things. Is there things that we can prep, like questions to answer that you can prep before you go sit down with an estate planning attorney for the first time? Like, are there things that maybe we should be having these conversations at home, not in front of you?
Yes, 100% of the time, I send a questionnaire first.
Okay.
Oh, you do, yeah. You're like,
Let's fight
We're
this
not-
out at
yes,
home.
Yes,
and
we're
then
not
before you come
starting
and
from
see me.
scratch.
Yeah.
We're not starting from scratch. I mean, you can if you want to, but I don't think that's beneficial. I don't think that's the best way to go about it. I think,
Okay.
read the questionnaire, think about your questions, talk to your spouse about it, and then when you have questions, of course, I give the advice on it. But like coming in a meeting with me is not the first time you're considering.
Okay.
the answers.
Right.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know if this is like a silly question, but because I always think my husband and I have not traveled together leaving our kids. Like, I won't get on a plane with just him. I'm like, if you want to go somewhere, you can meet me there, take a different flight. Like, but even, I joke and say that. I don't joke. It's not a joke, but the likelihood of a plane crash, I don't know, now in 2025, I guess, is higher. But we go on a date night and driving down the street in a car, and that with just the two of us, that is more dangerous. If there is just one parent that dies and you do have a living trust, what happens in that?
Okay, that's a great question. And so how it works is that the two spouses are designated like initial trustees, and the remaining spouse is trustee. You keep your kids as like normal.
Nothing
so estate
happens.
planning wise, normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
What if you don't have a trust and one parent passes?
It would still be normal.
Business as
really.
usual.
Yeah.
I say business as usual, but it's not like there's any push and pull. What if you have a parent that passes and there's other stepkids?
As far in what way?
Okay, well, I'll speak for my.
okay.
Yeah,
It's like, well, here, let me tell you my question for my
well,
family.
okay, lay down. No, okay. So my husband and he has 3 kids from a previous marriage. They're all adults now. They're over the age of 18. However, we together have, as of now, 2 babies, and they're 3 and 1. Like, they're little kids. So, heaven forbid something happened to my husband. Could they come and be like, at this point, like, I don't know how that works. Like, okay, well, my dad's gone now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know exactly
This
what
is
you're
so gross.
saying.
I feel like gross asking this.
I know, and it really depends on your specific trust. So and that's the best way to put it. There's so many different scenarios, and especially in today's date, there's dynamic families of all sorts, and you can
blended families, modern families,
yes. So you plan for it. So like for you specifically, you'll have to look at your trust and see if there's a provision about when, if he passes before you. You may have contemplated that when you made your estate plan. You may not have contemplated it. So it really depends.
On your trust.
Yes.
And if people don't have a trust, then what do they do in that situation?
So
if they have not.
So his children would receive some of his assets, but you are also his surviving spouse who keeps some assets during your lifetime. So they'll have a claim to some.
It would go through probate then. Or no?
Not necessarily, but it also is so fact dependent. It so much depends on if maybe he has some assets from prior to marriage and those are his separate property. Like I really can't give like a
I'm not going to give you.
It's not one size fits all.
You're going to need to book an appointment.
Yeah. Same as how like families are not
so
the same.
specific.
Like an estate plan is not one size fits all. So you have the same standard documents that are recommended, but the provisions change.
Sure.
For like the guardianship nomination, can that be changed throughout your lifetime?
Yes, at any time.
At any time. Are there any mistakes that people make when picking like a guardian? I think when I sat down with our attorney, it was kind of like, well, like the natural instinct for us, at our age is like your parents, like they're your parents, but then you have to think about, well, what if your parents aren't here, by the time? So like, is there a, not mistakes, but maybe like some parameters that you always recommend people consider, or like things that they should avoid? Like, should we not be putting our parents down because they're older than us, and the likelihood of, hopefully, God willing, it's our time to go, that they have gone before us and there's someone younger or something?
Yes. So people often put their parents. And so I say, how earlier we talked about, okay, you put your first choice and then you have your second choice. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if someone really wants their parents as their first choice, I get it, but I always recommend second, third choice, at least someone of your like same generation or younger. So you don't want it to be that natural progression that, parents naturally would pass first. And then what you don't want and what you want to avoid is that all of your guardian nominations have passed. So definitely recommend someone of a similar age or younger.
I don't even know if you can answer this question, but I feel like a lot of people might avoid estate planning because they don't know how expensive it is to do or to sit down with an attorney. They don't know if they're paying an hourly rate or if there's a flat rate. Like, can you talk to the investment of estate planning?
Honestly, I think people take more time and money like planning a vacation.
Okay.
It's flat rate fee.
Okay.
It's not that expensive. It's like, you think about it as like a gift to your kids for the future. And I don't know of any attorney that charges hourly. I think that'd probably get more expensive. People really do a flat rate fee.
Flat rate fee.
As far as estate
For
planning.
the estate planning.
Okay.
And then you can just reach out to your attorney and change it because I forget, do you have to reach out and change like as you have a new baby and add on, or is it just automatic?
It depends on how your trust is drafted.
Oh gosh.
So something that you want to review.
There's
So I always say
dependent.
it's dependent. It's fact dependent. Again, it's not one size fits all, but like I personally in my estate plans that I draft for people that have growing families or are at an age where they might add children, I draft it in a way to include future children between those joint persons.
What about embryos? What about all my embryos?
Oh my gosh. What are they going to do with your assets?
Divided equally? No, but that is, I'm sure, a thing that you've had of like people with IVF, like I want to, like what to do with the embryos. Like, have you had that? Have you had that?
Well, with your, whoever's holding your embryo, you likely...
starting to get very hot.
You probably filled out paperwork at the time of your embryo.
I blacked out. All I remember.
Oh my God, you need to revisit.
I know.
You need to revisit your trust.
I need to revisit my embryo documentation too, because I had to have a lawyer, I think, or a notarized document like done with that, because I remember it was during COVID, and I said to my husband in front of the notary, I'm like, just mark this one, and he's like, okay, and he's like, what did I mark? I'm like, that I own all the embryos. And because if you divorce, like who gets them? Do you split them? Do they get destroyed? So I own them all. So.
Well, I feel like that was like a good basic like comprehension of estate planning, and obviously it's so specific to each like individual person. I would love to know, just like taking a little steer to the right, like how you balance being a really badass attorney in a demanding field and being a mom. Like how what does your days look like? How are you doing all of it?
So it definitely is a balance, and it's always this like push and pull of, you know, I worked hard for my career. I want to be the best attorney that I can be. But then at the same time, I want to be the best at what I am. And what I am is I'm a mom. So it's a lot of, I don't know why it's like, you know, it's just a lot of considerations for a working mom. But I think I really started like working towards balance when I was so young. I started law school when I was 21, and I moved to LA with my best friend. We were both going to school. We had an apartment in Santa Monica, like 6 blocks from the beach. And so we just had this like, you know, we were young and wanted to do these things. But at the same time, I was in my first year of law school, and it was so demanding. It's very competitive. You're competing for your grades. And so from then, I just had to really learn how to do like the personal life, more work-life balance. Now I'm so many years down the line, so I think I've like honed it in better. But I have a nanny.
You know, it's almost accepting the fact that like the word balance is so hard, because balance, we think of this. It's like this some days and this some days, I'm sure. It's like you can never feel perfectly balanced. I do, though, think that going through law school is probably the best preparation for motherhood. Like, I'm sitting here, like, thinking that, and, like, how demanding it is, like, negotiate. Like, don't you wish that you had those skills?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I wish I knew how to litigate.
Okay, well, I'll have to do a, like, Camp Chaos Law 101.
Oh, my God, I love that.
Well, and also, like, how to argue with your toddler.
Yeah.
Like, how to negotiate with your toddler. I'm sure you have some good negotiation skills.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
What advice would you give to moms who are trying to balance it all? Because I think which we did an episode, I don't know if it's come out yet or not, a pillow talk about, you know, even asking for help, like asking for a nanny, and how you're like, it's a really hard pill for a lot of us to swallow, of knowing that you're stepping away from your kids for a couple hours to let somebody else take care of them, but it's because you're doing wonderful things for them and for their lives or whatever. But like, what advice do you have to women who are trying to juggle a really demanding career and being a mom, and maybe help is hard?
Help is really hard. I had so much guilt over even hiring a nanny. So we hired our nanny when my first was 5 months old. So it's been about 2.5 years now. And she's wonderful. And I'm so grateful for her. But it was always so hard for me to hand off the kids, I think, until I had the second. And I felt like now I really need help. So I needed help with the first, of course. But I felt kind of like, oh, this is a baby. I can provide for him what he needs. So I felt guilty working. Now he's older. He goes to preschool part-time. I can't provide that for him. So it takes away a little guilt. But it was really the tipping point of like once the second started crawling that I was like, okay, I'm not guilty.
Like here's the white flag.
Help.
Please help I was similar where it was like until he was a year. I'm like, no, I could do all this. And then when I wanted to get pregnant with my second, I was like, okay, I'm raising my hand. Mercy, this is it. Exactly. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing when you find somebody that you trust and with your kids. I mean, not like this all connects, but at the end of the day, like that is the most important thing for you as a mother.
Right. And I think that like guilt wise, I've convinced myself, and I guess this is what I would say to other people, whether it's true or not, I've convinced myself that it's helpful for children to be like raised or taken care of by multiple people. I think that like people read different books, they sing different songs, they might teach them to crawl up the playground differently than I do. And so I tell myself, oh, that's so good.
It's like, great having many people love your children.
Yeah, and it is. And then for me, I think I just kind of stay focused on like my why of it. Like, why am I doing this? So before kids, it was like intrinsic, I want to do it for me. Like, I want this title. I want to have X amount of trials. I want to do X amount of estate plans. Now, that's not the why anymore. That's still what I do. But the why is now to provide the best that I can for my children. And also to instill a good work ethic. I have boys, so, I want them to be motivated and teach them to be providers, all those sorts of things. And I think it's helpful.
Are you able to find time for yourself?
Is this it with us right now?
This is it.
We should make it more relaxing for you.
It depends on the day. So I have a very helpful husband who's very supportive of my career, and that's what helps. I mean, he gives me the time to myself. But I don't like necessarily have anything like carved out. Like it's not like 6 p.m. every day or whatever. It just is like day.
Well, that's the hardest time.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the time. I'm like, bye.
Okay, I'm going to go now.
Dinner, you got this.
Are you ever looking at this too? Like, I mean, we joked that like you're a part-time therapist or maybe full-time. Like you have such an emotional job as well. Like this is like not just you're an attorney and going out there fighting. Like this is like talking about people's families. This is talking about people's assets. This is talking about people's future, like future planning in a very sad and scary way, because it's like at the end of the day, this is one thing has to happen before this to come into play, and that is death. Right.
Yeah, right.
So like that
for
is
certain things, but then also part of the estate plan, like I mentioned, like very briefly, that it's also for yourselves. Including an estate plan as a power of attorney and a healthcare directive. So both of those documents are someone that makes financial decisions on your behalf or medical decisions on your behalf if you're unable or during your lifetime. So of course, again, something has to happen for that to come into play, but it's not necessarily death. But I think that's an important consideration too, is that you want to plan who's taking care of you if you need it.
Yeah.
And when you say like your healthcare directive, that's like do not resuscitate, right?
And medical decisions, like for
like
someone that has Alzheimer's.
Got it.
Something like that.
Who's the guardian?
Who's deciding what care facility I go to?
Power of attorney, really.
Yeah, so that's for finances.
Okay.
And then healthcare directive is same idea, but for healthcare. So if somebody needs nurse, who's deciding what nurse is coming in and taking care of you, those kinds of scenarios.
Well, so say you do this with your spouse and you're like, okay, yes, my husband, or like, ideally, like your husband's going to be the one that you'd nominate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
but then what if you go through a divorce? Do you have to go back and we redo this? Because I wouldn't want my ex-husband being like, here's what we're going to do with her health and her finances.
Pull the plug on that one, please.
We joke and we're laughing through this, but like I feel like guilty
serious.
laughing. Just know that it's part of our dark humor that we're laughing through these scary things.
Right.
But seriously, like after you get divorced, like is it like, okay, now we have to go back to the drawing board, or is that trust still in play?
You don't want that trust to still be in play because it's your joint. It's like your joint trust. And so you would amend or get new trust and make those changes at that time.
Do you guys have to, I mean, that's probably, I'm sure, part of divorce. You have to agree of what to do with the trust or your future assets. That trust is no longer valid.
So, right. You don't want that trust to be valid anymore.
Got it.
Because it's a joint ownership that they get
My
when you
heart is
pass.
racing. It's like very, yeah. I mean, no, but this is very serious,
you don't want
right? Well, you're also extremely pregnant and
Yes.
may have been water leaking at this moment. But yeah, it's just a very big kid conversation. And we had the last conversation we just had was like somebody said, like, after becoming a mom, like you finally feel like a real adult. For you, I'm sure going through law school, you probably felt like an adult when you became an attorney. Like that is very badass. But it's like you get these kids and then you're like, oh no, I'm an adult and I need to make these really big decisions and really put in place these practices so that my children don't have to worry in the future.
No, it's true. And I mean, even with kids, sometimes I'm like, wait, I'm a mom. Like one of my kids was sick recently and I had to get him the soup and chicken soup and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the one that's doing this.
Yeah.
So it is
happens
funny,
every day for us.
Yeah.
What are like 2 to 3 simple steps that someone who's listening right now that doesn't have an estate plan in place can start to do to like get the process started?
Think about who you would want to take care of your kids in the wake of tragedy. Think about who you want to manage your money in the wake of tragedy. And then it's really good to contact an attorney because there's so many different modern families, like we said, and the scenarios are so fact dependent.
Well, and you can have it all up here of like, okay, here are my wishes, but the judge doesn't care. And like, it has to be written down and it has to be in a trust.
Yes.
Like you can be like, okay, if something happens, you are like, that's all great. That's all pillow talk.
But you've died by then.
You're done.
Yeah.
Right. Are there any, of course, someone can contact you and we'll get all of your information at the end, but are there any free resources for people that they can go to or look at to help get them informed about this process and what they can do next steps?
There's a lot of information online that you can look into. A lot of attorneys also offer free consultations.
Okay.
Myself included. And most people don't put like a time limit or information limit on that. So you can, call around and get different information.
Do you find that most people are doing the estate planning like right after they have their first kid or like in pregnancy or something?
There is definitely a wave of like first baby and then retirement.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are two big ones. Yeah.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
Like when you're
Start to
actually
really
thinking
think,
about those, I would assume like for us, the new baby is mainly the guardianship you're focused on. You're like, okay, we have to do my estate because I need to worry about the guardianship. And then later it's probably more assets. Well, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, how they can contact you, how you can help with getting everybody started on estate planning? Because if you're listening to this podcast, you don't have an estate plan, don't say we didn't warn you.
My website is kmhlawgroup.com and you can find me on Instagram at kmhlaw.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, this was so helpful. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Camp Chaos. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Connect with us on social media at Camp Chaos Podcast. Until next time, campers. Welcome to Camp Chaos, where we celebrate the wild ride of modern womanhood.
Join us as we dish on motherhood,